Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. All right, you guys, welcome back to the podcast, episode 15. If you're watching on YouTube, I tried to make this somewhat cute, and I don't know if it's just cluttered now or cute. I kind of think it's a mix of both. I didn't even know I didn't realize I put my rose quartz here, but I guess I did. But I have my journal, my book, a little bouquet of flowers, and I guess Rosie, my rose quartz, decided she wanted to be in this, and I have my cup of tea. So here we are. I feel like it was fitting because this episode is all about emotions and stuff like that, and I've turned to my books and my journaling to help me feel better and process my emotions and all of that good stuff. So my gratitude for today, which is a little bit ironic because I wrote this yesterday and now I'm sitting down to actually record this, and I'm reading what I wrote down that I'm grateful for. The gratitude I wrote was that I am grateful to have experienced living in a ski town, which is still very true, holds true, but just yesterday, we did not have a good day skiing. That's all I'm going to say. But also, I'm realizing I wrote that in past tense. I announced on my YouTube channel that I am going to Hawaii for 2 months, and I just kind of wanted to let you guys know because I've been wanting to reference it, and now since it's out in the open, I feel like I can, and it will be known and it won't be weird, and people will be up to speed. So that's happening in about a month. I'm going there, just to give everyone an FYI, a little 411. In my most recent YouTube vlog, I addressed why I'm going and all of that good stuff, my whole intention behind going, if you're interested in that. And so today's episode was actually requested, specifically more so of how to cope and deal with anger. And I thought this was such a kind of a weirdly specific request, but such a valid one. And coincidentally, I got more requests after that first one about specifically dealing with anger. So I obviously took that as a sign, clearly this is what's resonating with the collective. And I was thinking about my answers to how I've worked through anger over the years. And I've realized that my answer really can apply to any emotion, to dealing with any emotion. And so I guess that's what this episode is going to be completely about, just in general, about how to deal with your own emotions and how to process them and work through them. Definitely might do more parts to this one, but I kind of just wanted to explain kind of my own process as to how I work through my emotions. And this is very fitting for me, specifically also with anger. I used to have really, really, really bad temper tantrums growing up. Ask any of my close friends, my family, they will tell you firsthand. I don't know what it was. It was literally almost a character trait of me at the time. I would just have such a bad temper, or now I don't know. I would just get, and even now I still do it. When I get upset, I shut down, but it's even multiplied back at that point in time. Just because I was younger, I was less mature, and I don't know, I just would always get these I would just get so frustrated by situations, and then I would never know how to come out of it because this is so immature. But again, I was young. I hated the concept of how do I now, it was almost losing my dignity when I had to come out of that being angry and now had to talk to everyone again. Do you know what I mean? Because I used to get really mad. I would just go be super quiet and I wouldn't talk to anyone. And then eventually I was okay, well, how am I supposed to get out of this and now start talking to people again? It was such a stripping of my dignity. And I hated that concept, that transition of okay, you can't be angry forever. How do I get back to this? Ask what we're having for dinner. So I just wasn't a good time. And now I do not get angry nearly as frequently as I used to, by any means, not even close. And I rarely get as consumed by it. Again, not even close by how I used to. So I've experienced such a huge improvement. Obviously, a lot of it is due to just maturity in general, and then just becoming more emotionally intelligent as well and self-aware. And also, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle actually really dives deep into how to process your emotions. And I think that's like a really awesome book that's kind of overlooked for that purpose. So if you're looking for something like that, I definitely would recommend The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Definitely have mentioned it before. And it's just a great book where he really, because it's all about just overall gaining awareness and consciousness and elevating your consciousness. And it just helps you look at your mind in a different way and become more present in your mind and deal with the things that goes on in your mind. So definitely recommend that book. But in terms of like tangible steps, the first thing that helps me so freaking much, and I think it's the first step towards kind of coping with this emotion, is recognizing that you are not your emotion. And it kind of sounds redundant, kind of sounds like, okay, like what do you mean by that? But I'm telling you, when you fully grasp this, I think it really changes the game and is pretty revolutionary, because we are so programmed to say like, I am sad, I am happy, I am fat, I am hungry. Like we always put I am. And of course, when we say we already just automatically associate our identity with those things after the phrase I am. That's why affirmations are so powerful, and just the word is so powerful in general. And I think that causes such like a misconception mentally. And the issue that I have with that, when you say those things, or like when you have that perspective within that, like you are your sadness, it ties so much more, you're so much more consumed by it. You're so much more wrapped up in it because your identity is placed in that emotion. It becomes your state of being, of your frequency that you're vibrating at, when really it is just something that you are experiencing. So this is what I mean when I say, like, for the title, it says create space with your emotions. That's exactly what I mean. When you understand and recognize that you are not your emotion, you are the one experiencing your emotions, you are the observer, you are the awareness that emotion is taking place. That whole concept is what will create the space between you and your emotion, which will allow you to not be as consumed by it, which will allow you to not identify with it, and will then allow you to have such a more objective viewpoint and I guess plan of attack when it comes to finding a solution out of this state of feeling. And it just is really, really powerful. So that's what I mean when I say create space with your emotions. And I remind myself, it's almost like hard for me to explain because I like visualize things in my mind. But like when I'm feeling something, like I'm telling you, that's been such a game changer. And I'll tell myself, like, create space. And that just means to kind of, I think of myself like in a movie theater and I'm watching the movie. Like I'm sitting in my chair and I'm the one watching the movie. So it's kind of like when I'm feeling angry or sad or frustrated, it's like I'm watching someone. Does this make sense? Like I'm watching someone experiencing those emotions on the big screen, but I'm still further away. I'm the one observing it. And having that like sense, that just will give you so much peace. It will take your power back and give you like I'm saying, it will make you view your situation in so much more of an objective way, which will then allow you to have a more constructive, plan of attack to solve the situation or to process your emotions. And I feel like a good example is like if you're looking at a really beautiful sunset, right? You're the one observing the sunset, you're experiencing watching the sunset. That doesn't make you say, oh, I am beautiful. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I mean when I say create space. Like you are not your emotions. Just because you are experiencing it or witnessing it does not mean that you take it on as your identity. It is something that you are viewing, you're observing, you're witnessing, you're experiencing. I really think this is the number one thing that people miss. And I feel like, at least even for me, I guess I'll speak for myself and experience, when I get so consumed by my emotion and I don't take that split second to say, create space with your emotions, I find it so much harder for me to have clarity in the situation. It makes me feel like my world is crashing down. It makes me feel so consumed. That's the word I want to keep using. It makes me feel consumed by my emotion, like there's no way out, like I'm stuck, like I'm like kind of getting suffocated by my emotion. And so creating that space allows me to not feel like my problem is as big or feel like that emotion isn't as heavy. And like I'm saying, it makes me look at the situation more objectively, because I'm not necessarily like taking the emotions to heart, if this all makes sense. I feel like it'll make more sense if you like really try to apply it, and once you feel it and truly feel it in practice, it's all gonna click and you're gonna say, oh, I get what she's saying. So I think once you've done that, and like I'm saying, it allows you to look at things more objectively, like this is then when I ask myself some questions to think critically, to just like question in a good way of why I'm feeling this way. You know what I mean? Like, where is this emotion coming from? Is this my own genuine reaction, or is someone else projecting this emotion onto me? Can I improve or change the situation that's making me upset? Is this emotion I'm feeling like a trigger? Is something triggering me to feel this way? Is this a trauma response? All of these sorts of things help me just try to then kind of find the root cause to then be able to go about a solution. And I kind of spoke about this in another episode, I think just previously, about self-love, about how when you actually make, your thoughts and take them out of your head and make them more tangible and make it identify a tangible problem, quote unquote, then only then are you able to come up with a tangible solution to get out of that tangible problem. Otherwise, it's kind of this just like big, theoretical, it's not tangible. You can't really place a target on it. This problem where you can't really put a finger on it because it's too ambiguous, too much up in the clouds, but kind of pulling it out, making it into an actual tangible problem allows you to actually come up with a tangible solution to then be able to solve this and move forward. And I think once you kind of recognize that and ask yourself some questions, and especially the biggest question of, can I improve the situation or change what's making me upset or not? And really, there's only two options with things that make us upset. You either change it or you accept the situation. That's really it. It's not complicated. I think we get more caught up in our heads about, like the correct way to solve the situation or how to get out of it or just how to deal with it. And so many of us will just sit there and complain and sulk in it and just marinate in those negative emotions or rerun the negative situation, all that sort of stuff in our head. And that does nothing. That just doesn't serve us, and it never will serve us. And if anything, it's going to enable us and keep us staying stuck and living in that negative vibration and staying in that same situation. So that's another thing that I realized that really helped with my emotions. I'm like, dude, if you're unhappy right now, either change it. Can you change it? If the answer is no, / you're not willing to put in the work to change it, you need to accept it and you need to stop complaining. You need to look for the positives and just completely surrender to the situation that you're in. Because literally, like, that is the only thing left to do. And this is when I say why I believe ignorance is bliss, because sometimes there's just nothing else left to do. So why would you not try to manipulate your viewpoint and your perspective to see it in a positive light for the cards that you have dealt that you can't change? That's just how I want to live my life. Some people don't agree and would rather, I guess, live the realistic route. But if I'm given dealt a card of, a hand of cards, I almost said a card of hands, a hand of cards that I can't change, but they're less favorable. Why would I not manipulate my viewpoint to see it in my favor, to see something of light, of good, of positivity, of optimism, if I can't do anything to change it? Like, there's nothing left to do at that point. So that's just truly like how I believe to live my life with pretty much anything in life. Just when I think back to, like, especially my anger, like circling back to the main request, I guess, of touching on anger and coping with that, I just know what used to make me feel so angry is I just would get so consumed with my anger, like I'm saying, I just would let it fester. And then that's what would make me not get out of it, because I wasn't creating that space. I would identify with it and I would let it swallow me whole. Like, that's what it felt like. And I'm not saying like create space to, in a sense of like putting your arm out and like not letting it ever reach you or having you process the emotion. Like, I'm not saying that to like push it away and create a distance so that you never experience it. I'm saying allow yourself to allow yourself to recognize that you are the experiencer that is experiencing the experience. And I know it sounds funny, but it's so true. And you can still allow yourself to fully experience these emotions without letting yourself get engulfed in them and swept away and lost in the emotion. And this was actually fully in, now I don't remember the book. I think it was maybe The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, where he was talking about how you need to let your emotions pass through you and flow through you. And I have really been trying to put that into practice ever since reading that book. And it really does make a big difference. And this is a way to allow yourself to validate your emotion and feel this emotion, feel your natural reaction, because it is what makes us human. After all, like, we are emotional beings, and that is okay. And that's part of the human experience. But when he was saying, let it flow through you, and actually this is a perfect segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, it's allows you to surrender to the feeling and allows yourself to not fight it, not try to push it away, but let yourself feel it and surrender so much to the point that you are just opening up the floodgates and you are letting yourself feel every single component, every asset, every single facet of that emotion to the point where you're completely allowing it just to clear through. Think of it kind of as like what I'm seeing in my mind right now is like, okay, floodgates with like a path of no resistance, right? Or a path where there's a bunch of spikes in there and a bunch of obstacles within that same flow path. Obviously, the water is kind of going to get caught and need to be flowing around those obstacles that are kind of going to be slowing down the processing of that flow of water, correct? Same thing of your emotion. If there's a lot of obstacles in there, if there's a lot of resistance to the situation, if you're feeling like you just keep questioning, complaining, asking, why is this happening to me? Just being like, I'm so frustrated in this situation. All of those things represent the obstacles that are in that flow path. And so by having those things present, you are slowing down the actual processing of the emotion and allowing it to just completely pass through you. But if you rid yourself of all of those things, rid yourself of just resistance in general, open up that flood path so it's just completely clear, the quicker it's going to be for that emotion to be able to completely pass through you and flow through you, and therefore allow you to process it faster and allow it to pass and come and go. And I think that's kind of what I mean when I was saying fester with my anger. Like, I would be so frustrated in the situation. I would have so much resistance to the situation. I would keep replaying why it's making me so mad and just so irritated. And I just wouldn't let it go. I wouldn't let it flow through me. And that's what would just prolong me getting over it, because I wasn't ever giving it the space, creating the space for it to flow through me, flow past me, whatever you want to imagine in your mind. And I really think that's why I used to get so caught up on my emotions, because it's like, that's gonna, you know what I mean? Or if like there's barbed wire around a fence, that's another thing I'm seeing. It's like there's more stuff, like, you know, there's more opportunities for things to get stuck on it instead of having like a sleek fence where the wind can just, that wasn't a good one, but like, what gets stuck on barbed wire? You know what I'm trying to say? Do you know what I mean? Like, it creates such like a clearer flow for these things to keep flowing through us. And I guess that's something else I realized just in general is like trying to minimize resistance within me, within my energy body as much as I can. Because that was kind of the same thing. Like, we're completely all energy. Everything is energy. And I'm always pictured as like a flow of water. And so if there's a bunch of resistance in me to situations or to my life or to who I am or to what I look like, I'm just causing buildup of energy within me. And that's what causes misalignment, uncomfortability, and anxiety, and just all those things inside of us that just causes misalignment and unalignment. And so I try to just do that within myself, of just surrendering to the present moment, to the present situation. And it goes such a freaking long way. And there really is such a big difference between ignoring what you're feeling and actually just completely surrendering to what you're feeling. Accept it, recognize it, let yourself process it. And like I said, try to improve the situation or accept it and then let it wash over you like a wave, because it will pass along with everything else in life. And surrendering was such a huge thing that helped me in just ridding resistance, because if you truly, truly put that into practice, like I just had this thought the other day, like it really, truly does pull the plug from a lot of freaking negative emotions and just the things that frustrate us on a day-to-day and just cause us negative reactions, honestly. Because if you think about like where a negative emotion stems from, like I want you guys to do this as an exercise. The next time you feel upset, say, why do I feel this way? Where is this coming from? It is, I can guarantee you the answer always is because you are having resistance to the present moment. You are not accepting what is in the present moment. You are, I don't know another word, like you are just resisting what is. And once you actually are able to fully accept what is, accept the situation, surrender to it, release that resistance, that's when you get your power back. You take your power back, and that's you taking the power back of your emotional state and not placing it in the hands of external circumstances anymore. Back to, again, I think it was episode number 2, Step Into Your Power. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check that episode out again. But that's just another example of when we give our power away, is when we get so consumed and caught up by these external circumstances or things that happen in our external life. Rosie's on the move, and we let those things dictate our internal space, which is just very much so pretty much the epitome of the definition of giving your power away. So surrendering to your situation, surrendering to what is, releasing resistance, That's what allows you to take your power back and decide how you actually want to be feeling. Because the thing is, you can sit there and you can complain and you can be pissed about something, be frustrated about it, but it's not going to change it. Those emotions are not going to change it. And it's crazy because us as humans think experiencing and feeling those lower vibrational states of being in low vibrational emotions, for some reason, we think that feeling that way is constructive and is going to help us. But really, the only thing that does is restrict us from seeing the solution, from getting out. Those emotions keep us trapped. I'm not saying that, again, not to feel them and that we need to push them away and that they don't have their place. They 100% have their place, 10,000%, and we are supposed to feel them for a reason. But the point is to allow them to be as they're temporary. All emotions are temporary, and for some reason, we tend to latch on to those negative emotions just for a little bit too long for whatever reason. And we sulk in them. But the point is to use them as guides, as navigations, to know what is good for us, what is bad for us, to learn from. And the key is, so that's what I'm saying, to let them pass through you. Feel them, get the lesson from them, but let them go when it is time to let them go, so you are fully able to move forward. And I want to give you an example, as always, because I can't believe I haven't given an example this whole episode. But I said this actually in a vlog not too long ago, where I was like a month ago now. And this was the time I got pretty angry this day, and I hadn't gotten this upset in a long time. Like long time, like months, maybe even a year. I don't even know. But it was a really long time. Like I couldn't remember that day a month ago. I was like, wow, I can't remember the last time I was this frustrated. And so basically what happened was, long story short, we were going skiing. I had to pay I have a season pass, but some days it's called blackout days and you have to pay for a pass anyways because it's usually like a busy time. So people who have season pass holders, they still need to just buy a ticket, but you usually can get it for half price. Long story short, it was way more expensive than I thought it was going to be. It kind of was a whole miscommunication. It was a whole scenario, but I was so bummed out and I was so irritated and frustrated that I had spent that much money on a ski ticket that I mean, and I know this is going to sound whatever, but like I have been skiing the same mountain since I was 3 years old. We hadn't gotten new snow in a while. It just was not it wasn't like, ooh, crazy powder day or like new mountain that I haven't skied at. Like it was the same thing I had been skiing for like 20 years. And I just paid a lot more money than I thought I was going to spend. And it just was a pretty unfortunate situation. And I was so frustrated by it. I was so frustrated because I was like, this was so avoidable. And I just couldn't wrap my head around that I spent that amount of money for something that I can do on like literally I could do the next day for free because I already had my season pass. And I was sitting there and I was so frustrated because I kept replaying it in my head. And I just kept thinking about how frustrated I was. And that's an example of not ridding yourself of resistance. I had so much resistance to the situation because I just couldn't allow it to come through. I was so irritated with it. I was so frustrated. I couldn't accept it because I just was so upset about it. And all of that is just pent up resistance that's preventing me from being able to move forward. And so again, I was upset for a bit, and there was for the first time in a long time, and I held on to an emotion like that. And I realized I was like, Liv, release resistance, surrender, accept it. You have to let it in, and that's the only way you're going to be able to move forward. So I just told myself, release resistance, accept what is. And when I tell you it completely changed, it kind of was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I breathed and I said, you just have to accept the situation. It's done. It's not going to change. It's not the end of the world. You're safe. You're healthy. Your family is safe and healthy. No one is dying. It is okay. Money goes and money comes back. And I wasn't even like really pissed about spending the money. It was like the principle of the thing that was frustrating me because I was like, that was such an avoidable thing. And I was frustrated with myself. Like it was just one of those things because it was so avoidable and it just seemed like a stupid, inefficient decision, if that makes sense. And I was like, it happens. It already happened. You got to swallow the pill and you need to move forward. And so that's kind of an example of what I mean when I say release resistance, because we just keep replaying these situations and we hold on so tight to the concept that we are frustrated. And if you're holding on so tight, how do you ever expect that emotion to leave? You know what I mean? It won't if you're holding on to it that tight. And same thing, like something little, like if you're stuck in traffic or whatever and someone cuts you off and you get pissed, that's you having resistance to the present moment. That's you not accepting what happened. That's you having hateful emotions towards the present moment, where if you just surrender, allow, say, I release resistance to the present moment. It is what it is. It happened. It is done. I take my power back. I'm telling you, if you like talk yourself through these things, you're going to be able to process your emotions so much better from a seat of awareness, from a seat of consciousness, from a seat of maturity. And it is not going to consume you like it used to. And you're going to be able to look at it from more of an objective light and not get so suffocated by these emotions all the time, or these external circumstances, or these external situations. I'm just telling you, anytime you're frustrated, ask yourself why you're frustrated, and it is always going to be because you have not accepted the present moment. You are resisting it. You are not allowing what is happening in the present moment to happen. It's almost like you're in denial, and so you're just pissed about it. You know what I mean? But if you're like, this person cut me off, that's what happened in the present moment, it's okay. Like, it's so empowering, and I'm telling you, it really does pull the plug from a lot of negative emotions. And I'm not going to say this is going to help you in one day when you do it, but really try to put this into practice. Be conscious about it. Have more awareness about your thoughts, about your emotions. Create that space as step one. Like I'm saying, if you do anything, take anything away from this episode, try to at least have the awareness of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, so you don't identify with it. And then you therefore can create space between that thought and between that emotion. And therefore then you can then go on to react objectively and actually have a problem-solving mentality to help yourself process these emotions. And I guess the last thing I'm going to say that I'll leave you with is just overall having more awareness with your thoughts and with your mind goes such a long way. And this is a practice. I want to be very clear. Like I said, this isn't going to happen overnight. This is something that you truly, genuinely need to practice to help yourself gain awareness of, and also to help you learn how to actually process and work through your emotions. But such a big initial step that a lot of people miss is that they don't even have they're not looking at their mind from a seat of observation, from a seat of awareness, from a seat of consciousness. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I was saying when people get consumed by their minds and of their thoughts and of their emotions. Like, you are not that. You are the person. You are the awareness behind those things. You are the experiencer experiencing those things that are happening within your mindset. And so I think just kind of taking a step back in your own mind, asking yourself questions, thinking critically, asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? What emotion is this? Trying to identify things and just kind of, taking a more intentional and mindful approach will allow you to get more so in the driver's seat when it comes to deciding how you feel, your thoughts, all that sort of stuff. And so I think that's going to be a really good practice for you guys to try to put into place, of just living inside of your mind in a different way, from a different perspective. And if this topic interests you, or you're still a little bit confused and you kind of want to dive deeper into this, 2 books that I really recommend. Again, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That book was amazing also to process your emotions. Those are both linked in the show notes down below. It will take you to my Amazon storefront. I have all my books listed there for you guys, but I think that's the biggest thing that really helps me, for sure, is just sitting more so in the seat of awareness in my mind instead of being the one who's like only looking through my own eyes. I don't know how else to explain it. It's so hard for me to explain because I just have a visual in my mind, but I almost see myself like in a chair looking at myself, my avatar that people see in my reality, whereas opposed to a lot of people are just looking straight out through their eyes. And so that's why they're getting consumed by their emotions and by their mind, when really there's another layer and it's bigger than that. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm going to go. But for the affirmation for this episode, I am the observer of my mind and release resistance to what is. I am the observer of my mind and release resistance to what is. If something's irritating you from day to day, I'm telling you, tell yourself just this affirmation as well. Just say, I release resistance to what is. I release resistance to what is, or just I release resistance, or I accept what is. Whatever resonates with you, to just surrender to what's happening in the present moment, and it will take so much of the pain away that you experience from the day to day. So I love you guys so much. I hope this episode helped. Life is challenging sometimes, and I sometimes feel like I'm in denial with recognizing that. But as I get older, the more I'm able to kind of swallow that and know it's that way for a reason. And having, I guess, just more respect to that whole concept as a whole. So I don't know. anyways, like I said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for listening, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.